Right, good afternoon, Year 10. Welcome to another lesson. I hope you've had a good week, and so you should have been, most of you should have been in school this week, which is great. I haven't been in yet. I will be in next week, but I probably won't be able to see those of you who are in that day anyway, because I'll be in with the key worker students. But I hope you're ready for another lesson and that you're ready to engage with this lesson, because I've got a lot of things to go through this lesson, and this is a bit more of a interactive lesson than usual. So one of the things I want you to make sure you've got up, most of the tasks we'll be doing today are on the tiny URL. They're in the Year 10 folder, the practical folder, and they're in the Concepts for Programming project folder. So you need to make sure you've got that open. So get that ready to go. So obviously opening up the tiny URL, going into the Year 10 folder, opening that up, going into the practical folder, Concepts for Programming project, and these are the things we'll be doing at some point later this lesson. So get that ready to go. Okay. But before we talk about that, about what specifically we're going through today's lesson, hopefully you've got my message on Show My Homework about the programming project coming up. So those who haven't seen my message, I got a message from AQA a couple of days ago saying that it is possible for you to do the programming project outside of the classroom now. You don't have to be in the classroom to be able to complete it, the part of the 20 hours or even all of the 20 hours. Now, I've got a few responses back so far, which is good, but I do need to hear more ideas, more opinions from you, and you can give me why you've picked that as well, which a couple of you have done. So with option A, the idea is that I would give out the programming project next week, and I would ask you to have those 20 hours completed by September, doing around 2 hours per week. If by the beginning of September you haven't quite finished, I'm not going to have a go at you, but and then we can have a look through it in class and not waste too much class time on it. I know a few of you will be a bit scared about that option because I'll be kind of leaving you to it, but as I've mentioned in class before, I cannot give you the same level of support that I gave you for the programming project last year. So whichever option you pick, be it A, B, or C, I'm going to be giving you a guide as to what you should be working on for each hour. So I'll be kind of going, okay, hour 1, you need to be doing this, hour 2, you need to be doing this, and so on. You might decide, okay, I'm going to spend 1 week in the summer holidays and just get it done, and that would be great as well. Like, it depends how you want to do it. So that would be if we chose option A. Option B is that I don't give out the project until September and we spend 20 hours of lesson time completing it. Now, there's a couple of issues with this option, in that first issue is that I have no idea whether we will have as much time as we would usually have at the beginning of September, whether we're in this kind of similar issue with the bubbles and all of that kind of thing, of not being able to complete certain programming parts of these projects because we might not actually be given that lesson time. One of the other issues is that it's really massively going to be eating into your revision sessions. We probably, if we only spend lesson time on it, we probably won't be finished with the programming project until December. And by that point, you should really be at a point where you're comfortable with doing the exams and really excited and know what you're doing with regards to the exam. I'm really uncomfortable with the idea that if you are only spending 20 hours on the programming project in class, then you'll have an issue with when it comes to sort of December time, you'll be panicking about your exams, which are the things that are actually, that is the thing that actually counts. So if you pick option B, you need to really think about the fact that that will really eat into your revision sessions, which are the things that actually count. Option C is giving out the project in September, but I expect you to complete those 20 hours for homework. I might even kind of do a mix of option B and C and do one lesson where we do work on it, but I expect you to work on it for 1 hour a week outside of lessons. So you could either do that in school at a lunchtime or an after school, or you can do it at home. So I prefer personally option C or option A. Obviously, it's up to you. If you think the option A is you're not going to be capable of doing it under your own steam, then you want to pick one of the other options. If you think any of these options are going to be difficult, they're not going to be easy, but at the same time, you really need to think about what is more important to you, getting this project done, which I do have to allow you 20 hours to do this project, or doing something, making sure you are ready for your exams. I want to make sure you're ready for your exams. And so I'm really concerned that if December comes and we've not been doing anything but the programming project, that you won't be ready enough for your exams come May time. So think about it that way. Whatever option you pick, I'm going to have that guide, and I'll be asking you to keep your work up to date so I can see what you've done and make sure I can give you feedback on at least a weekly basis, no matter which option we pick. Okay, so please make sure you get that in by today or tomorrow. Think about it. If you have any questions about that now that you want me to answer straight away, then stick it in the chat and I'll talk about it. But today's lesson, we're going to be rushing through all of these ideas of list manipulation techniques, string handling, fixing errors independently, syntax, runtime, logic, understanding the concept of subroutines, which we've gone over a little bit, but just talking about those, and being able to read, write, and edit data to or from a file in Python. So we're going to rush through these. The way we're going to be doing this is I'm going to be recapping a concept, and then I'm going to give you a little task, which, as I've mentioned, is on the tiny URL ready for you to go. Okay, so first thing we're going to look at is the reading lists methods. Now, if you remember back to this is exactly the same one as I gave you in class, but try and remember all of this where we've got all of these different parts. So remember, if I put C, then B, then E, then G, then H, then D, that's the first word. And then word 0 becomes E. So what's word 0? It's this one here. So I'm going to put E, okay? And then B, E, G, H, D, okay? And word pop 2, if we know that the 0th character is the first one, and that the 0th item in the list is the first one, and then we're popping out the second one, or index 2, then we're going to be getting rid of this value here, this E, okay? So pop means to remove, if you remember that. So it's E, then B, and because we're removing it, everything else just moves up. G, H, D, okay? Then it's saying word dot remove G, and we're going, okay, where's G? There's a G, so we're going to remove the G. So it'll be E, then B, then H, then D, okay? Then word insert at index 0, the letter Z. So at index 0 is over here. So I'm going to put that at the beginning. Z, E, B, H, D, okay? Then word pop 3, that means get rid of the item at index 3. Okay, so again, whoops, we're doing Z, E, B, and then D. Okay, then it says word dot pop. That just means we're getting rid of the last item in the list. That will always be the final item in the list. So Z, E, and B. Okay. Because it doesn't have anything in between the brackets, we're getting rid of just the last item in the list. Word dot insert 3R. So I'm inserting in the third index, the letter R. So Z, E, B, R. Okay. And then word dot append. Remember, append means add to the end. And we're adding the word A, the letter A, sorry, Z, E, B, R, A. And so when we print out the word, it will be zebra. Okay? Or it will print out the word. It will look something like this version of the word, where it's got the speech marks and all of that, because actually word is a list, not a string. Okay, so hopefully you've remembered how that works from that lesson we did. And remember that if there's nothing in these parts of the list. Okay, so just remember that those bits don't exist. Okay, time for you to do a task. I'm going to give you 5 minutes to open the list manipulation task and complete it. Now, remember all of these different things. I've given you some clues as to how these all work. You're going to have 5 minutes to go through that task, complete it. You need to, what you'll need to do is copy the code that you've got at the end and paste it back into the thing so I can see what you've done. Okay, so I'm going to give you 5 minutes. Off you go. Okay, only not very long left, so most of you should be almost done by now. Make sure when you finish, you're copying all the lines, not just the word at the end. You're copying all the lines so I can see how well you did, see which ones you got correct and incorrect. Okay, just wanted to make sure everyone had the opportunity to send that last little bit because I only had a couple of responses and then they all sort of flooded through. So if you found that difficult, if you found that task difficult and you need another refresher, please spend some time before September or before you're having a go at the programming project, whenever that is, looking through those list lessons I recently did with my year 9s. Now they're saved onto a playlist on my channel called Lists. So once this video is over, maybe make a note to yourself right now. If you found that difficult, I need to work on lists. Have a look at this playlist. There are some tasks on those lessons, just like I've given you for these lessons, and you can submit those onto Show My Homework for a bit of practice if you found that difficult. Okay, just to be able to go, I have no idea how to use lists. If you don't know how to use lists, then this is where you need to have a quick look. Okay, if you haven't given me a response on the task, then I can't say that you have done this for today's lesson. Even if you're talking to me in the chat, I can't see that you've done the lesson if you haven't entered your response into the task, and that's going to be the same for all the tasks for this lesson. Okay, if you have any specific questions, please send me a message on Show My Homework or send me an email. Those I've got usually on my phone, so they kind of ping up and pop up, so I notice straight away when you send me them. So I should respond fairly quickly unless I'm doing something else at the time. Okay, moving on. String manipulation. So I'm going to quickly go over some of the concepts for string manipulation and then again give you another task to have a look at. So first thing I want to talk about is the idea of concatenation. So you might have a variable called name and then say equals first name plus and then speech marks with a space plus surname. What that does is goes, okay, whatever they've put in as the first name and then plus, so say we had input statements beforehand of enter your first name and then enter your surname, and the user put in John and then Smith, it would give us John space Smith. Okay. String slicing, name 3:5. That would give us like the item from the third one onwards to the fifth. So if it was John Smith, so the first character is character 0, much like we have in our lists idea. It's the same sort of idea. And name 3 to 5 would be going from the beginning of character 3 and up to, but not including, the character 5. So that would be n space, it would just be, in fact, it would just be n space because it doesn't include the character 5, okay? If we're talking about the name John Smith, okay? So remember to, if you think about that in the way of kind of using like a ruler to measure, you're measuring from 3 up to 5, that's where you would be able to work it out a lot better. Finding the length of a string, you just need to put in len name. So the length of John Smith would be 11 because there are 11 characters including the space. JOHN space SMITH. That makes it JOHN space SMITH. Sorry, 10 characters. I don't know where I got 11 from. Oh, I missed a number when I was counting just here. Another thing you can do is case conversion. So name.upper, which will convert your the name all into uppercase. So it'd be John Smith rather than John Smith. Name.lower would be converting it all into lowercase. So you wouldn't have any uppercase characters or any capital letters. Name.title would make every new word in a phrase or in a string have a capital letter at the beginning, but not the rest of it. So just the first letters of every word would be capitalized. Then name.capitalize just capitalizes the first letter. It doesn't do any of the rest, it just capitalizes the first. So even if you've got multiple words, then name.capitalize would give you just the first letter. That would be kind of like you're writing a sentence or something. Other things to consider, Boolean conditions. So name.isAlpha. IsAlpha would be asking whether, it's basically saying, does this name or does this string only have characters that are from the alphabet in it? Okay, so name.isAlpha would be going, checking John space Smith. Well, all the letters are in the alphabet, but space isn't. So that would return false. But if it was just John, then it would return true. Name.isDigit, that would be basically going, okay, is the whole thing the digits 0 to 9? If not, then it will return false, which it would in this case if it was John Smith. But if all of the characters in that variable or stored in that variable or that string are digits, then it would return true. Then name.isUpper would be basically saying are all the characters in uppercase. Name.isLower would be are all the characters in lowercase, and it would all of these return either true or false depending on which things you end up with. Okay, so with that in mind, I want you to have a look at the string manipulation task. And so assuming that name equals Usain Bolt, year equals 2009, time equals 9.58 seconds, event equals 100 m sprint, otherwise aka 100 meter sprint, and info equals the current world record, what do these statements do? So think about the fact that you're using string slicing here, and you're thinking about Boolean conditions, so things that return either true or false. And we've also got concatenation down here. So I'm going to give you 8 minutes for this one, because I know it's going to take you a little bit longer based on, I did this with my year 9s earlier, so I wanted to see how they did, and yes, it took them about that long. So I'm going to give you 8 minutes, have a go at that one, off you go. Okay, so just get that finished off. Make sure you've got that sent in, because if you aren't sending these in, then I can't see that you're interacting with the lesson, and I can't say that you have done what you should have been doing for this lesson. If you're struggling, that's fine. Obviously, this is something that's going to be not the easiest thing for you to do, because it's something we've not done for a while. I hope that just by doing a little bit of practice, that'll give you the opportunity to kind of remember some of these things. I'm having a look at your responses so far, and there are a few that have come in, and we're doing pretty well generally. There are a couple of ones that seem to have tripped people up a bit, so I might just go over those a little bit in a bit more detail. But let's go through what each of these are. So the first one, where it says info.title, okay? So info was the current world record, which all of you seem to have understood that. But where it says info.title, we need to make sure every character at the beginning of a word is a capital letter. So title case is where you've got capital letters at the beginning of each word. Oops, did I not? Sorry, I thought I had put the answers on this one. Let me just see if I can get that from the other PowerPoint that I had from my year 9s earlier. So as I've just mentioned, it would be the current world record. So capitals all the way through those, okay? Let me just go through those. So the current world record. This is just from my year 9s one, so it's a little bit different, but same sort of idea. Then info from 12 onwards. So this is the thing I probably should have gone into a bit more detail on, and I forgot to. But if there's nothing after that colon, that means it just goes to the end of the string. Okay, so 12 onwards, if we count from here, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sorry, I missed one. 12 is W, okay? So it should be world record, and we're turning that into uppercase. So from 12 onwards would be from this W onwards, and in uppercase, so it would be world record capitalized, okay? Like this, okay? Then, so let's see how you did on that one. Some of you found that quite difficult, I think, because you were looking at info and because you were looking at the idea that you're going from 12th digit onwards. It's this colon that might have been a bit confusing there. Okay, print year dot is digit. Well, is 2009 a digit? Yes, it is. So that's true. All of you got that right. So well done, those of you who've responded. Time up to 4. So again, you're going from the beginning up to the value 4. So time up to 4 would be 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 9.58, but no space. Okay. Time up to 4, is that a digit? Now, this was a bit of a tricky question, because you're looking at 9.58. That point is not a digit. It's not in 0 to 9. So, as I say, a bit of a trick there. 9.58 is not a digit. It's a number, but it's not a digit. Okay, so most of you got that right. So well done there. So false. Print length of year. You're just a couple. You have kind of mentioned, Rayhan, that when you asked for the length of 2009, I thought the first one counts as a 0. No, when you're looking at lengths, you are counting it like you would normally count. So what is the length of this piece of string? What is this length? The length of this string? And there are 4 characters in year, so there it returns 4. Okay. That's one that a couple of people trip up on. But if you're thinking about length, then you're just looking at how many items are in it. That includes the 0. So if you're going 0, 1, 2, 3, there are still 4 items in it. 0 is an item as well. Okay. Event.isAlpha. So if we look at event 100m space sprint, is that an alphabetical thing? No, it can't be because it's got the numbers 100 in it. So that's false. Then this next one, again, a bit of a tricky one because name.isAlpha Usain space Bolt. It has a load of characters that are in the alphabet, but as one person has noticed, there is a space in there. So it is not able to, it's not going to be a space is not an alphabetical character. It's not in the alphabet. So unfortunately, this comes out as false, even though it looks like it's an alphabetical thing. Because there's a space in there, it will come out as false. This next one, info up to 3. So 0, 1, 2, 3, don't include the space, would be the. Okay, info up to 3 is the, and then we're making that lowercase. So the in lowercase plus info from 12. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Again, it starts from W up to 17, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, but not including the 17, is world. And so making that dot upper. Now, one person managed to get this correct. Of the people who have submitted so far, a couple of people haven't really submitted it yet, but 12 up to 17 is world. Make that in uppercase would give you the world. Okay. Now, some people mentioned included the word record in there, but we don't want that to give be part of it because it only goes up to the 17th item, not up to the end. Okay, and somebody also, I don't know who it was, but somebody seems to have mixed up the is lower and just lower. Lower just converts it, but is lower gives you your true and false value, and is upper gives you true and false value. Okay, is asking a question, which will give you your true or false, and just lower converts it. Okay, final one, info plus space for the space plus event is etc, etc. Okay, so this gives us the current world record for the 100m sprint is 9.58 seconds, comma, set by Usain Bolt in 2009. Most of you managed to get that, so well, in fact, or am I wrong? No, most of you didn't manage to, nobody managed to get that even. I think some people managed to forget this comma, because in the original, this has a comma, whereas some of you managed to forget to add that in. Okay, so hopefully you've been able to remember how that works from that thing. If you found that difficult and you need another refresher, please spend some time before September looking through the string manipulation lessons I've been doing with my year 9s. I've just been doing them very recently, so I might be adding to that next week, but they'll be saved to a playlist on my channel called String Manipulation. I would suggest you complete the tasks I've set for those for some practice, and again, submit those on to Show My Homework. Right, moving on, because we've not got long left. Types of programming errors. There are 3 types of programming errors. Syntax errors. Easy to spot. The program will usually spot these as you type, and it won't allow the program to run unless it's fixed. So things like you've missed a bracket, or you've missed a speech mark, or you've missed the colon on an if statement, for example. You've got runtime errors. These only appear once the program is running and will cause the program to crash and display an error message. So you've got, for example, if you've tried to convert something into an integer or you've forgotten to convert something into an integer, and then you've tried to do some maths on it, for example, that's a runtime error. There will be it will only crash once the program is running. And then a logic error are the hardest to spot. It looks like your program is working, but it will output the wrong answer. Okay, so like saying if you've forgotten which direction your arrows go on your if statements, for example. Okay, what I'm going to ask you to do is complete the debugging task, finding as many errors as you can. I'm going to give you another 8 minutes for this. You're saying you literally got 1 comma wrong. Unfortunately, when it comes to programming, that kind of thing can really make a difference, and you'll probably notice it here when we go into this debugging task. If you miss one tiny little thing, that will make a huge difference to the program. Okay, so after 8 minutes up, remember to get that link from what you've done. So you click on this bit at the top here, then click link, copy the link that pops up, and paste it into the form so I can see what you've done. Okay, so off you go. Okay, you've only got 1 minute left, so make sure once you feel you've got that done, please post in the link to the trinket that you have created, because obviously once you've edited it, it becomes a brand new link. So you can copy that link over. You can do that by looking at what's on the screen here with this share button and then clicking link, copying that link into the debugging task into the Google form. So you've got 20 seconds. Try and get that last little bit done, and then if you're really not sure, just paste the link in anyway. If you're going, I don't really get it, I want to see what you have and haven't managed to do, and I can have a look through those and see how well you've done, which things you might have missed, which things you might have forgotten about. So I haven't, I'm not going to go through every part of this, but I am going to point out a couple of things. There's a few bits where there are commas missing, particularly on line 2, which is where you've got your syntax error that pops up at the beginning. You've got your random dot choice, you've got an open bracket, and then you've got your square bracket, and then you've got a closed square bracket, but you missed the closed open regular bracket. So that's where that syntax error comes from. You've got things like where you're missing 2 equal signs on line 10, where comp choice equals are, right? You've also got someone's managed to post in the same link as I gave them. That's not going to be the link that you've been editing. So make sure you've got the link you've been editing. There's also things like if the computer chose scissors and the user chose rock, it says rock blunt scissors, I win. That's not right. If rock blunts scissors, then you have won because you as the user have picked the rock. So things like that you've got to pay attention to. There's a print statement on line 23 that's missing both of its brackets as well. There's quite a few syntax errors, and there's the logic error, and there's a couple of, I think there might be a couple of other kinds of errors as well. So with this task, if you found that difficult, then all I can suggest you to do is to practice coding and debugging, okay? You'll need to do this a lot for that programming project, debugging as you go. If you have any specific questions about that, please send me a message on Show My Homework or send me an email. Right, I'm moving on. So file handling, going through some of the really quickly going through some of these examples with open speech marks example.txt, speech marks, comma, R. That's in read mode, remember, as file. That's how you open a file and read it, okay? You might have with open the new file.txt in write mode, and I've called it new file. The variable's called new file. New file.write brackets speech marks hello world. Remember this \n goes onto a new line. Hopefully this is all bringing back some memories for you from when we've been through this before. Writes 3 lines and then that's it, okay? So that's the idea of writing to a text file. And then this is editing a text file. So asking the user for first name, surname, and town, and then opening and reading lines. So .read lines, remember that's the version where that is saving to a list, and then you can then go, okay, the item number 2 in the list is going to become this 002 plus first name. I'm using concatenation here, and I'm using my \n in there as well. And with open example2.text, W as so I'm writing again into my file myfile.writeLines instead of just write. WriteLines allows you to write in lines of data from a list. Okay, so this is just me editing a list like we did at the very beginning of this lesson, where we say data1 equals something. That is just changing one line of the data. Sorry that was a bit short and a bit quick, and sorry I don't have a specific task for you to do for this one. But if you think you need to review file handling in more depth, please spend some time before September looking through the file handling lessons I did with my Year 9s. Again, I went through this with my Year 9s as well. They're saved to a playlist on my channel called File Handling. I'd suggest you complete those tasks I've set for those lessons for some practice. What I would suggest you do before this lesson finishes is decide which of these things you want to work on, okay? And then with subroutines, if you found that confusing, then please complete one of these tasks. In fact, I would like you really to complete one of these tasks anyway. And again, that's on the tiny URL, all the links to that are there. Easy is to create the menu for a program that has subroutines written already. Medium task is to write the code for your own menu and subroutines, and you start with some placeholder code. And hard would be adding your own subroutines to another program. So I've given you a text adventure game, and for you to use what you see on that and just change it so that it adds your own subroutines. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. So that was all the concepts that we should have gone through today. That one there. Remember to comment about the programming project. Remember to enter your response for all of these parts. If you're joining us later, that's fine. Just make sure you put in your responses, and then also have a go at some of the tasks that you think were a bit more difficult. All right, I'm going to be setting that as an extra task on Show My Homework. I might not have a proper lesson next week, just because I'll kind of go, these are the tasks I'd like you to get on with, and I'm not going to waste your time with a spoken lesson. We'll see. But anyway, have a lovely week. Enjoy your time in school when you manage to get into school, and I will see you next time. Bye.